Good morning. Thanks for joining us here. We saw that on YouTube this morning and couldn't help but want to share it. So thanks for coming. We would love to answer your questions today. Before we do, I've got about just 15-minute quick presentation to maybe go over some stuff in a more efficient manner, and then open it up for questions. Sound all right? Great. Well, let me get started. You know, we're not perfect. We know that. You know that. And phones aren't perfect either. But we want to make all of our users happy. And if you don't know that about Apple, you don't know Apple. We love making our users happy. That's what drives us to make these products in the first place. So we're going to talk about how we're going to do that today. Before we get into that, though, I want to talk a little about the problems and the data that we've got that can help inform us about what the problems really are so that we can make sure we make all our users happy. So let's get started. The iPhone 4 is perhaps the best product we've ever made at Apple. And we have sold well over 3 million since we launched it 3 weeks ago. Just 3 weeks ago. And it's been judged the #1 smartphone in a variety of publications. These are just a few: Wired, Engadget, PC World, Consumer Reports. So people seem to like it. More importantly, users seem to love it. It already has the highest customer satisfaction rating of any iPhone ever and of any smartphone out there. So that's not bad in the first 3 weeks. However, we started getting some reports of people having issues with the antenna system, which is a very advanced new antenna system. And the problems they were saying, obviously Gizmodo put their video on the web. People were touching X marks the spot here, and they were seeing a large drop in bars. And this has been since dubbed Antennagate. So we heard about this not long after we started shipping, just 22 days ago from today. Right? It's not like Apple's had its head in the sand for 3 months on this, guys. It's been 22 days. And, you know, Apple is an engineering-driven company. We've got some of the finest scientists and engineers here in the world in the areas that we need to create our products. And the way we work is we want to find out what the real problem is before we start to come up with solutions. And so we've been working our butts off for the last 22 days to understand what the real issues are here so that we can come up with real solutions. And today we want to share with you what we've learned. So let's go right to the data. Antennagate. Doesn't seem like a good idea if you can touch your phone, or more in particular, grip your phone in a certain way and the bars go way down. That doesn't seem like a good thing. Well, it turns out it's certainly not unique to the iPhone 4. That was one of the first things we learned. You could go on YouTube and see videos of Nokia phones and Motorola phones and other phones doing the same thing. Nobody'd ever looked at them much before. And frankly, we didn't trust them either. So we did our own testing. We have extremely sophisticated testing here. And let me just show you an example of some other smartphones. So we're going to start off with some very credible phones. These are all good phones. There's nothing wrong with them. The first is the BlackBerry Bold 9700, made by RIM. This is perhaps the most popular smartphone in business. So let's take a look at what happens when you hold it in a totally normal way. So you can see the bars right there. It's got 5 bars, and we're going to grip it like you might easily grip it to make a phone call. And you'll see the bars go down to 1 fairly rapidly. And you ungrip it, and the bars go back up to 5. Pretty much identical to the videos on the web about the iPhone 4. So there's the BlackBerry Bold, 5 bars to 1 bar. Different people grip phones in different ways, but you can imagine that's a pretty popular way to grip that phone. Next, the HTC Droid Aris. It's an Android phone. Let's take a look at it. Starts off with 4 bars. They only have 4 bars. And the time it takes for the bars to go down is dictated by their algorithm. The signal goes down right away, but the algorithm sometimes delays it to make sure it's not just a temporary glitch, as to not confuse the user. So it goes down to 0 bars, and then when you take your hand away from wherever their antenna weak spot is, it goes back up eventually to 4 bars there. So again, the HTC Droid Aris, same behavior, 4 bars to 0 bars. Samsung Omnia 2, a Windows mobile phone. Let's take a look at it. It's got 4 bars to start. We grip it in a not unusual way. This one, I believe they have a long hysteresis in their algorithm, so it takes a minute or so to drop the bars. But again, the signal strength dropped immediately. And the display goes dark quickly. They're trying to save battery life. Again, the signal's already down to, I believe, 1 bar, but they're just taking their time to show it to make sure they're not making a mistake. None of this is standardized, by the way. Manufacturers come up with their own delays. And so again, you'll see it go back up. I think they go back up a little faster than they go down. So we get back to 4 bars here pretty quickly. Now, these phones so we could have gone on and had another 5 or 6 phones to show you. Most smartphones behave exactly the same way. Now, these phones were all tested in areas of relatively weak signal strength, just like people have been testing the iPhone 4. And you can see that the bars go from 5 to 1, 4 to 0, 4 to 1. This is life in the smartphone world. Phones aren't perfect. And it's a challenge for the whole industry. And we're all doing the best we can. But every phone has weak spots. Most every smartphone we've tested behaves just like this when it's in a relatively weak signal area and you grip it in a certain way that's not unusual. Now, we're not perfect. We made it very visible with a little help from our friends on certain websites. What we did was X marks the spot. We went to a lot of trouble to put this really beautiful line in the stainless steel to say, here's where you touch it, everybody. You know? Might as well could have just put waved a little red flag right there. And we had incorrect bars. So that when it did drop, the drop looked far more catastrophic than in reality it was. You thought you were dropping from 5 bars to 1 bar, when in reality you were probably dropping from